Every compliance report needs somewhere to live, and that's where jobs come in. So creating jobs is an important first step to creating your compliance report. Now, there are two ways to do this. You can either create the job on the dashboard, as I'm about to show you now. This is the usual way of doing things. Creating jobs on the dashboard is done in the office using your browser. Alternatively, you can create what's known as a draft job on the mobile app. We have a separate article for that, so please check that out. So, like I say, the usual way is to create the jobs in the dashboard. The way you do that is to press the Create Job button here. If you're doing some work for an existing client, you can type the name and then just select them from the drop down. Alternatively, if you're working for a new client, just type the name here and you'll be prompted to create this on the fly. Next we have the project reference. So there are different ways you can enter the project reference. Again, we have a separate video on that, please check it out. But for most people, it's going to be your internal job ID, the way that you want to reference this job. So in my case, I'm going to say Builder Code 1. That's my project reference. Next is the address. This is where you're going to be doing the work. You'll notice as I start to type here that this address will be geocoded, and the system will try and find out exactly where this address is. You can see it's used its best guess to pinpoint this location here. You can use the Control key on your keyboard to zoom right in and just drag this marker position to the correct part of the building. This map will get shown on your reports, and also it'll get used for directions on the mobile app. So if you can pinpoint the location, it is generally a good idea to do that. Next is the UPRN. UPRN is Unique Property Reference Number. Most people aren't going to use this. Generally, it's just councils, housing associations and the like that use UPRNs. So you can skip this. You'll notice some fields have a star, and that indicates that they are required. So UPRN is clearly not required, whereas this next field, pipeline, is required. The pipeline is the type of work that you're doing. That's the best way to think of it. And it will dictate the stages that the job has to go through before it's considered complete. Each job type can have its own stages, its own workflow that you must follow, and this keeps things nice and separate. I'm going to click into this and select my asbestos surveys pipeline because that's the type of work that I intend to be doing here. Next are tags. Tags are optional, however they make the search more powerful. We have a separate video on tags if you want to check that out. To begin with, you won't have any tags. You have to go away into the tags screen to set these up. Now in my case, I've already done that. I've set up my tags, so I can click into this input and select my urgent tag for this one. Next is the value field. The value is how much the job is worth to yourself. You might not actually want to include the value. For example, maybe you don't want your staff to see how much this job is worth, or it's just generally private. You don't have to enter this. There's no star next to this field, as you can see. It's worth mentioning as well that the value field is only available on the dashboard side. You won't see this on the mobile app, so it's only really available to office users or whoever you've assigned that dashboard permission. Next is the notes field. Notes are private notes that you can see on the app or on the dashboard. The client doesn't get to see this. So the notes are a great place to put things like telephone numbers. For example, I could just pop in this telephone number here. Or you might want to say something like building available from 2 p.m, that kind of thing. Whatever notes are going to be most helpful to your ground team or your office workers, this is a great place to put them. So just general information about this job, I guess. Next is, you can see we have some scheduling information. So there are actually a few ways you can schedule up a job. The first one is simply to put in a date. So I could put in today's date. If you know the time, you can pop that in as well. And if you know the end date and time, you can pop those in too. So in this case, this is showing as a 1 hour job, but there's no reason you couldn't have a multi-day job too. So I could say actually this finishes next week on the Tuesday at 10 o'clock. What I'm going to do is I'm going to save this job as a multi-day job, and then I'm going to pair it back to just a single day so you can see the difference. Next is the Assigned To field. You don't actually have to include either the date or the assigned to users at the point of creating the job. You can create unassigned jobs in this way. If you do that, you must edit the job later on and make sure you assign both the date and the user to the job. But in most cases, you'll probably want to assign the users to the job when you first set them up. So click into this field. Any registered users will be displayed. I'm going to assign this to myself and to Amber. You'll only see jobs on the mobile app that have been assigned to you. Because I'm logged in as me on the mobile app, I'll therefore see this job pop up in a second. Next is the due date. So I'm going to say this is due on the 17th. Bearing in mind we said it was going to finish on the 16th. Now as soon as I save this, we're going to see this job pop up on the right hand side. Now currently this is showing next week's jobs. I'm going to skip back to this week's jobs and we'll hit save to see what happens. So this job's popped up on the mobile app as expected. You can see it's starting on the 12th of December and it's going all the way through to the end of the week. If I go to next week's jobs, you can see it continues on all the way through to the Tuesday and it's shown as day 5 of 5, which is the final day. Now let's go back to this week's jobs, and I did say I'm going to pare this back to something a bit simpler, so let's go ahead and do that now. To do that, tap the Edit Job button, scroll down, and we're going to remove the end date and time and click Save. One thing you'll notice is that the time is still displayed here. It says 9 o'clock. If we edit this job again and remove that time, then the job is classed as what we call an all-day event. So if you've meticulously planned out your route for the day, you know you're going to be doing job A, then B, then C, in that order, then it is worth putting the times in because the jobs will order that way on the mobile app. If you don't really have a plan, or for example it's jobs on the same street, then you're not going to be too bothered about the order in which you're going through the jobs. In which case you can just chuck them in as an all-day event. Then those all-day events will still show on the app nonetheless, but they won't appear in that sort of structured order that I was just describing. So now that you've created your job and scheduled it up, this is essentially the starting point for creating your report. And that's going to depend on the report template that you're using, but it's just a case simply of tapping the Add Report button, either here or on the mobile app, and you can then start to enter data for the type of survey that you're doing. We have a separate video on creating a report and also some complete walkthroughs which you can check out depending on the type of template that you're using. So I hope this has been a good introduction to creating a job on the dashboard.